Welcome. I'm Coleman Kaplan. The play tonight is Oedipus Redeemed, which I've written as part of a trilogy on Oedipus. I want to put you in the framework of this second play to bring you up to the context of where we are in the saga. The Oedipus Redeemed is the middle play in my trilogy, placing Oedipus in a confrontation with biblical thought. In the first play, Oedipus in Jerusalem, the biblical prophet Nathan encounters the blind Oedipus wandering desolate and alone outside of Thebes. Nathan takes pity on Oedipus and hears a story of how he murdered his father and beheaded his mother, fulfilling unwittingly a Greek prophecy of the oracle of Delphi, the Pythia, and subsequently blinded himself. As Nathan listens to this story, he becomes convinced that Oedipus was not guilty of knowingly committing these acts, but in fact was doing all he could to avoid performing them. Rather, he is done in by misleading information offered by the oracle. In other words, Nathan becomes convinced that Oedipus has been misled and indeed entrapped. Nathan brings a reluctant Oedipus to be tried at the ancient Jewish court of the great Sanhedrin in Jerusalem. There, Oedipus is acquitted of intentionally performing these acts. And in fact, the Greek idea of fatalism is challenged as being in reality nothing more than entrapment, emerging from misleading information provided by the oracle. When Oedipus asks who his parents are, the oracle does not respond, but instead answers him that he is destined to kill his father and marry his mother. In trying sincerely to avoid this outcome, Oedipus unwillingly brings this about. Oedipus is acquitted, and Greek thinking is challenged. However, Oedipus continues to think in a Greek rather than a biblical view, and as such, cannot accept his acquittal, and even seems to derive a secondary gain from insistence on his guilt. This is where this play, Oedipus Redeemed, begins, with Nathan and Sophocles joining forces to help Oedipus accept his acquittal and to move on with his life. Michael Ronstein, the narrator. Michael Zimmerman, the Av Beit Din. Ethel Fennick, the spokesman for the Sanhedrin. Isabel Proton, Oedipus. Nasi Rudy Lukov. The biblical prophet Nathan, Judy Sherwin. Sophocles, Michael Shapiro. Diogenes Laertius, a chronicler of Greek historical fiction, Denise Paley. Job, Anne Schmidt. Deborah, biblical prophetess and judge, Elizabeth Shapiro. Tiresias, Anne Schmidt again. Ismene, daughter of Oedipus, Janet Chandler. Video director, Doug Vanderhoff. Video consultant, Lou Russo. And musical director, Anne Schmidt.
Oedipus Redeemed, Act 1. Oedipus rejects his acquittal. Scene 1-1, the decision of the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin is reconvened. Oedipus is ungagged.
I have received a note from the Sanhedrin that they have arrived at a verdict. Is this correct?
We have. We would like to offer our verdict and the reasoning behind it.
What is your verdict?
We find Oedipus not guilty of the murder of his father because he acted in self-defense. We find Oedipus not guilty of incest because he did not know that the woman he married and impregnated was his mother. Therefore, we judge that Oedipus lacked mental state of specific intent, which is required for the offense of incest. Oedipus did not know who his natural father and mother were.
Do you then not find Oedipus guilty of any crime?
Only one act, Adonis, an act he has not been accused of.
If he has not been accused, this court cannot find Oedipus guilty, and no punishment can be assessed.
We understand this, Adonis, yet this act is so destructive we must comment on it.
And what is this act?
Oedipus's taking out his eyes. The prohibition against self-injury occurs in Deuteronomy, in our holy Torah. You are the children of the Lord our God. You shall not cut yourself, nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead.
The Sanhedrin will note this. The Sanhedrin finds Oedipus not guilty of murder or incest, yet expresses its dismay and horror over his self-mutilation. The trial of Oedipus is completed. The Sanhedrin is adjourned.
I am guilty, I am guilty, I am guilty of patricide and incest. I am a pollutant, the worst of the worst.
Scene 1-2. Oedipus leaves the courtroom in great distress. He rips off the rag loosely lying around his mouth and pulls at the rag around his eyes. He is walking aimlessly with Nathan following him.
Oedipus, why are you so distraught? You've been acquitted by the highest court of Judea.
I am guilty of everything with which I was charged.
But the Sanhedrin found you not guilty.
I am guilty.
But the Sanhedrin found you not guilty.
How can I be not guilty? I murdered my father and committed incest with my mother.
But you were entrapped.
Stop spewing such nonsense. Don't you see? I murdered my father and slept with my mother.
But you didn't know who your father and mother were.
Stop it! I am the worst man that ever lived. I murdered my father and bedded my mother. I am the worst of the worst, and the acts I performed are unpardonable.
But you didn't know. You were trying to avoid doing those acts. You didn't know who your true parents were. You were raised by foster parents, the king and queen of Corinth. And when the oracle told you were destined to kill your father and marry your mother, you tried to avoid this by running away to Thebes.
Did I kill my father and marry my mother?
Yes.
So, what is there to talk about?
It doesn't sound to me that you knew that the man you killed on the road was your father, and the woman you subsequently married and bedded was your mother.
This is your view. I am guilty. I am the guiltiest of the guilt. I should have foreseen this.
Scene 1-3. Nathan meets with Sophocles at a cafe to try to understand Oedipus's refusal to accept his acquittal.
Thank you for meeting with me, Adonis.
It is my pleasure, my dear Nathan.
I want you to know that despite the fact that we were on opposing sides on the trial of Oedipus, that I have had the highest respect for you throughout.
I can assure you the feeling is mutual. Now, you said you wanted to meet with me. How can I be of help to you?
It is Oedipus.
What is the problem? Due in no small part to you, Oedipus has been acquitted. Is he not relieved?
No, quite the opposite. He is thrashing around, rejecting his acquittal, and insisting on his guilt.
I see.
Do you understand why Oedipus is doing this?
As a Greek, I think I do.
Why?
Well, it's both simple and complicated. On the one hand, we Greeks believe that everything is fated.
So, then how can Oedipus be judged guilty of anything?
But on the other hand, we believe we can commit terrible acts that cannot be forgiven.
But even if these terrible acts are fated, how in the world can you blame the perpetrator, who's basically not a free agent?
Do you know the story of the death of our great philosopher, Zeno the Stoic?
No. Please tell me.
Well, according to the writings of our great chronicler, Diogenes Laertius, Zeno wrenched his toe badly on the way home from giving a lecture at the Stoa.
What is the Stoa?
Basically a porch where he gave lectures.
Was his injury very serious?
No, it did not seem to be.
So, what happened then?
He held his breath until he died.
Can one do this?
It is problematic, but this was the story reported by our chronicler, Diogenes Laertius.
Why did Zeno do this?
Because he saw the act of wrenching his toe as a sign from the gods that he should depart.
Why did he interpret such a relatively minor mishap as wrenching his toe in this way?
Because this interpretation gave his life meaning.
How? I don't understand.
Because it meant that his gods were involved in his life.
Even though this interpretation leads to his death?
Yes, it created meaning for Zeno, and this was better than feeling alone and cast adrift.
Even though it led to his death.
Even though it led to his death.
Do you think that this is why Oedipus holds on to this sense of guilt?
Perhaps.
That it creates a meaning structure for him?
Perhaps it fulfills a meaning structure he already carries within him. Do you have any story like this in your tradition?
Well, we have the story of Job, but it's different. Do you know it?
No, I do not. Will you tell it to me?
Well, it's a very long story, and I'm tired. May I tell it to you when we meet again?
Of course.
May we meet next week?
Yes, I look forward to it.
Scene 1-4. Nathan meets with Sophocles for a second time to continue the discussion.
Adoni, thank you so very much for meeting with me again.
It is my obligation. As the accuser of Oedipus, I want to help him emotionally to accept his acquittal by your Sanhedrin.
Do you have any more thoughts?
It first appeared to me that he would accept his acquittal emotionally.
And now,
I can see that he is not.
why do you think?
I thought Oedipus may have acted like Zeno the Stoic in the story I told you. He, like Zeno, may be looking for meaning in his life.
Do you still think so?
I do, but I see it may be more complicated.
What do you mean?
Perhaps there is more than one reason why Oedipus does not or cannot accept his acquittal emotionally.
What do you mean?
I don't see this clearly yet. Will you tell me the story that you began last week?
Do you mean the story of Job?
I think that was the story.
Oh, it's a long story.
Please, proceed.
Job has had a very happy and blessed life.
In what way?
He was a God-fearing man who was the father of 7 sons and 3 daughters.
It appears that he had a big family. Is there anything else I should know about him?
Among Job's possessions were 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, and 500 yoke of oxen, 500 she-asses, and a very great household.
As you say, it appears as if Job has had a very happy life.
He did. But then something terrible happened. Actually, several terrible things.
What were these terrible things?
Job's sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house.
And?
A messenger came and informed Job of a series of calamities which had befallen him.
What specifically?
First, raiders came and took away Job's oxen and asses and slew Job's servants.
That is bad, but you said first. What else happened?
A fire of God fell from the heavens and burned up the sheep and the servants.
Terrible. Was this all?
Nope. Another servant came and told Job that another group of raiders took away his camels and slew his servants.
One calamity after another.
But there was more.
More?
Yes. Another servant came and told Job that a great wind came and smote the 4 corners of the house where Job's sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine. The walls fell upon the young people, and they all died.
This is a misfortune beyond misfortune.
But there is still more.
What else could possibly have happened to poor Job?
Job was smitten by sore boils from the sole of his foot to his crown.
I can't believe what you are telling me.
It gets worse.
How can it get worse?
First, Job's wife told him to curse God and die.
Does he?
No.
Was there more?
Yes, Job's friends try to convince him to admit he deserves his punishment.
Does he?
No. He maintains his innocence throughout.
Does Job not waver in his belief in his God through all these travails and abandonment by his friends?
He certainly protests, and at times wishes he'd never been born. He does wrestle with suicide, but ultimately reaffirms his relationship with his Creator.
Who wouldn't protest? It's truly astounding to me that he continuously maintains his innocence, recognizes the injustice done to him, and yet refuses to break his relationship with his God.
I suppose the Jewish people do not find this so astounding. It is our way. We bend, but we don't break.
What happens finally to Job?
When he comes to realize that some things are beyond his understanding, all is restored to him.
All?
All. His possessions, his health, and ultimately a new set of children.
This is an extraordinary story.
Do you think we could use this to help Oedipus?
This is a lot for me to absorb. I feel confused.
Why?
I find my view of the world is challenged.
In what way?
That things can be restored.
What do you mean?
That we can change what is fated to happen.
But if Oedipus was fated to do what he did, how can we blame him?
Yes, this is true.
And if he was not fated to do what he did, then he was entrapped.
By what? By whom?
By riddles, by incomplete information.
By Moira, fate, and Ananke, necessity.
But this views everything out of human control.
But it is. Not just human control. As my friend Aeschylus argues, even Zeus himself is subject to fate and necessity.
Then how could Oedipus be held guilty or even responsible for any action he might take? Indeed, how could anyone?
I am starting to hear you.
Could the two of us meet with Oedipus again next week?
Let us try.
Till then, Adoni. Good evening once again.
Scene 1-5. Nathan and Sophocles together come into Oedipus's room. He is lying on his bed, disheveled.
Have you eaten, my dear man?
Leave me alone.
You have to eat, my dear man.
No, I do not have to eat.
If you do not, you will get sick.
Of course I'm sick. I deserve to be sick.
Why do you say that?
Because of what I have done.
And what is this again? What have you done?
Don't torture me, Nathan. You know very well what I have done.
Tell me then, my good man, what have you done?
You, of all people, should know Sophocles. You are the one who accused me at my trial.
Tell me again. Of what did I accuse you?
Do not torment me more, Sophocles. You remember very well the things of which you accused me. Must I remind you?
Huh?
You accused me of purposely killing my father and subsequently marrying my mother, having sexual relations with her and begetting children with her. You stated this caused irreparable damage to my entire family and the community of thieves at large, as well as offending the gods supporting that community. Have I remembered this accurately, Nathan?
Yes, you have.
Why are you play-acting as though you do not remember? Did you not accuse me of those things before the Sanhedrin?
Yes, I did.
And then, when you were asked to state your charges more succinctly, and you did you not, Nathan?
Yes, he did.
Yes, I did.
You accused me specifically of the murder of my father and subsequent incest with my mother. Did you not?
I did.
So how do you have the temerity now to ask me what I have done? What a charade.
Because I have come to see that these acts were not intentional on your part.
Remember, Oedipus, you were acquitted of these accusations.
How could they acquit me? I am a Greek.
Because they felt you were unaware of what you were doing.
But who are they?
Why are you so focused on who they are? The Sanhedrin was simply saying that you had no intention or knowledge of what you did.
I am guilty. Don't you agree, Sophocles?
My dear man, I propose we meet again, and this time I will ask the Vice President of the Sanhedrin to join us and explain to you the reason for the verdict that it arrived at.
But I am a Greek. Why should the decision of the Sanhedrin mean anything to me?
I also am a Greek, my dear Oedipus, but I think that some of the points the Sanhedrin has raised are worth considering seriously, on my part as well as yours.
No one can change your way of thinking unless you come to understand what happened in a different way. But why not try this? You're miserable the way things are now.
I think this is an excellent idea. Let us try this.
It will be to no avail.
Will you
agree to this? I take this as a yes.
Then, until next week.
Scene 1-6. Sophocles is sitting with Oedipus in a side room of the Sanhedrin. Nathan enters with the vice president of the Sanhedrin, Abed Din, who is carrying a scroll.
Dear man, I have come here with the Av Beit Din.
It means nothing to me.
They have come to help you.
I don't need their help. All of you just leave me alone.
Nathan has asked me to come and explain to you the reasons why the Sanhedrin acquitted you of the charges that Sophocles brought against you.
Why must you continue to add to my torment?
Please, continue.
We found you not guilty of the crimes of patricide and incest.
I am guilty.
May I summarize the reasons for our decision?
Can't you see that I don't care?
Please, go on,
Go on,
dear sir.
I want to go back to my room.
I will summarize the reasons for our decision, dear sir.
Please, let him continue.
Please proceed quickly, Adoni. I can see Oedipus is getting tired.
These are the facts as we heard them. First, you were raised by King Polybus and Queen Merope of Corinth, were you not?
You know I was.
Did you ever think that they were not your natural parents?
Of course not. Why would I have thought that?
But something happened, yes?
What do you mean?
Were you not at a dinner party?
I went to many dinner parties.
Let us concentrate on this one. Did you hear talk that you were not the son of the king and queen?
You know that I did.
What did you do next?
I went to my parents and asked them if I was their natural son.
What did they answer?
That I was.
So then what did you do?
I went to the oracle at Delphi
Why?
to be double sure
What did you ask her?
whether King Polybus and Queen Merope were my natural parents.
Why did you ask her this? King Polybus and Queen Merope had already told you that you were.
Just to confirm that it was so.
But King Polybus and Queen Merope had told you that they were, no?
I just want to be certain
So what did the oracle answer you?
that I was destined to kill my father and marry my mother.
But this isn't what you asked her, was it?
No, of course not.
This is a horrible pronouncement. What did you feel?
I was horrified and frightened.
I can hear that. And what did you do?
I immediately ran away from Corinth as quickly as I could.
Why?
Because I did not want to kill my father and marry my mother. Don't you see that?
And who did you think were your father and mother?
King Polybus and Queen Merope.
And where were they living?
In Corinth, of course. You know this.
And why did you leave?
I just told you.
Please tell me again.
So there would be no chance I would kill my father and marry my mother. Can't you see that?
And who were they again?
King Polybus and Queen Merope of Corinth.
So you were doing all you could to avoid killing your father and marrying your mother. Do I hear you correctly?
Of course.
So I hear that you had no desire or plan to kill your father and marry your mother.
Of course not.
So how is it that you did end up killing your father and marrying your mother?
Why are you torturing me?
Again, how did you come to kill your father?
You know the story.
Tell me again. I want to hear it again.
I ran away as fast as I could from Corinth
To where?
to Thebes.
And what happened there?
I was provoked into a fight with an old man riding in a chariot in a place where 3 roads meet on the road between Corinth and Thebes.
What caused the fight?
The old man wouldn't let me pass and hit me hard over the head with a spiked club.
And then what happened?
I fought him off, and in the battle, I killed him.
Did you know that the man was your father, Laches?
Of course not. I thought Polybus was my father.
So you were not trying to kill your father, Oedipus.
Of course not. This is why I ran from Corinth.
Why?
To avoid killing my father.
Do you hear what you are saying?
I don't see your point.
Why did you run away from Corinth?
To avoid killing my father.
So why then do you say that you feel guilty for killing your father?
Don't you see? I did kill my father.
But you are not listening to your own words.
I don't see what you mean.
You didn't know that he was your father.
So, I don't see how things change anything.
You are not listening to yourself.
I don't see what you are saying.
Simply that you were trying to avoid killing your father. Don't you hear what you are saying?
But don't you see? I did kill my father.
But you are not listening. You were trying to avoid killing your father.
But I did kill him. I looked at his lifeless body.
But you did not mean to do this.
I saw he was dead.
You are still not listening to yourself. You killed the man who you did not see as your father because you were running away from any possibility of killing the man whom you saw as your father.
I don't see your point.
What don't you hear?
Your point ignores that I killed him. Don't you see this?
But you didn't know who him was. All you had been led to believe was that Polybus was your father.
But I killed him.
Who is him?
The old man on the road.
But not the man whom you saw as your father.
Of course not. I thought Polybus was my father. This is why I ran away from Corinth. Don't you see?
I hear you. But this is why we found you not guilty of killing your father. You didn't know the man on the road was your father. You only discovered that later. Can we now talk about your mother?
All of this is giving me a headache. I want to stop. I can't see straight.
It sounds to me like we should stop for now.
I agree.
Can we meet again next week?
Of course. We will meet again next week.
I can see what good it is going to do.
Can we meet alone tomorrow?
I think we should.
Scene 1-7. Nathan and Sophocles meet alone for a third time the next day at the same cafe at which they had met before.
Good morning.
And the same to you, my good man.
Do you think we've accomplished anything so far with Oedipus?
Yes and no.
What is the yes?
Oedipus is beginning to accept that he did not knowingly kill his father,
But the facts are the facts. Oedipus did kill his father on the road.
but he did not know the man on the road that he killed was his father.
Still, from a Greek point of view, Oedipus did kill his father.
More than that, he went on the road to begin with to get out of Corinth to avoid killing the man he thought was his father.
This rings true, even from a Greek point of view. What is the no?
Well, we have not gotten Oedipus to see that his incestuous marriage to his mother was also not his fault, because he was unaware that the woman he would take as his wife was actually his mother.
I think we should turn to this at our next meeting with him.
I agree. And we'll talk to the Abed Din about this.
Will that solve the problem?
Let us see.
So, till next week, when we meet again with Oedipus and the Avvet Din.
Scene 1-8. Sophocles is sitting with Oedipus in the side room of the Sanhedrin. Nathan enters with the vice president of the Sanhedrin, Avvet Din, again carrying a scroll.
Thank you for returning.
Thank you also.
Why am I here? I see it as a waste of time.
Why don't you let us make that decision?
I want to now deal with the accusation that you had an incestuous relationship with your mother. Did you do this? Did you do this, Oedipus?
Yes, I did. I married her and had children with her.
How did this come about?
I killed my father on the road. I continued on to Thebes.
And
I saw people terrorized by a monster,
what kind of a monster?
a creature called the Sphinx,
Who or what was the Sphinx?
a fearsome monster perched on the top of the cliff. It was a strange creature with the face of a woman, the body of a lion, and with wings like a huge bird. People were very frightened of her.
What did the Sphinx do?
She asked passers-by a riddle. If they could not answer the riddle, the creature would swoop down and devour them.
This must have been very frightening.
It was.
What did you do?
I answered her riddles.
Riddles. There were more than one?
There were two.
Do you remember them?
Yes.
Can you tell them to me?
The first was, which creature has one voice and yet becomes four-footed and two-footed and three-footed?
What did you answer?
Man, who crawls on all fours as an infant, walks on two legs as an adult, and with the help of a cane as an elder.
This was a brilliant answer. Was there a second riddle?
Yes,
Can you tell me what it was?
there are two sisters. One gives birth to the other, and she in turn gives birth to the first. Who are the two sisters?
What did you answer?
Day and night. Day giving birth to night, and then night giving birth to day.
This is ingenious. What happened next?
The Sphinx hurled herself down the cliff and died.
These were very clever responses.
They were so clever that they did me in.
How is that?
I was given the widow of King Laius of Thebes as a wife.
This was an honor, no?
An honor? It was a horror.
Why?
She was my mother.
Ah, but you thought Queen Merope of Corinth was your mother.
Of course. Did you think that I would knowingly marry my mother?
You just said it. Did you hear yourself?
I don't see the picture you're painting.
I hear that you are not listening.
Look, I told you I don't see what you're saying.
I hear the problem, but no matter. How many children did you have with your wife?
4,
Were they sons or daughters?
2 sons and 2 daughters.
What are their names?
The 2 boys were named Polynicus and Eteocles,
And the 2 girls?
Antigone and Ismene.
Were you a good father?
I tried to be.
Did you love them?
Yes, of course.
What happened to them?
What do you mean?
What happened to your sons? Are they alive?
They are gone.
Are they dead?
I don't know.
What happened?
They abandoned me after I blinded myself.
And your daughters?
I don't know.
Did they abandon you?
No,
So where are they?
I don't know.
All this is terrible, and you are alone. Let us end this meeting now. Please help Oedipus return to his room and see to it that he eats and drinks, washes and rests.
Can the 2 of us meet tomorrow?
Yes, we must.
Scene 1-9. Nathan meets with Sophocles for the 4th time in a courtyard outside the Sanhedrin to continue their discussion on how to help Oedipus accept his acquittal.
I have thought long and hard about our conversation several days ago.
And I also. Do you think that we are making some progress in getting Oedipus to accept the idea that he was given misleading and entrapping information by the oracle?
I think he sees it, but he does not have any real insight as to what happened. But I have come to see how this information was not neutral, as the oracle maintained, or simply passing on information of Oedipus's fate that could not be altered.
Yes.
For a Greek like me, it is an enormous change. But in this particular case, how can it be denied?
And specifically, cannot be denied.
That the oracle herself actually brought about Oedipus's actions.
Does Oedipus understand that?
I think he is beginning to hear this message.
So what do we do next?
I propose we present Oedipus with a short, dramatic play depicting the 2 figures we discussed earlier, the Greek Zeno and the biblical Job.
I can arrange to bring Job, who's living happily now, but you told me Zeno is dead, that he killed himself.
This is true, but I can arrange to bring our famous chronicler, Diogenes Laertius, who has written about Zeno's death and his life as well.
But a play? It seems so staged.
What do you suggest?
A conversation. Let Job and Diogenes Laertius simply talk to each other, and let Oedipus listen to the conversation.
Where will this lead?
It will lead where it leads.
But how can we ensure that it will help Oedipus?
We shall see. We can both try to steer the conversation to the issues Oedipus faces.
This sounds better. Who will bring in Oedipus?
I will ask the Beit Din of the Sanhedrin to bring in Oedipus.
Good. I will need about 30 days to locate Diogenes Laertius and bring him from Greece.
Very good. I will contact Job this week. He has far less distance to travel.
Till we meet again.
Scene 1-10. 1 month later, a dialogue is staged for Oedipus between Job and Diogenes Laertius, interpreting the dead Zeno prodded by Nathan and Sophocles in a small theater-shaped room adjacent to the main court of the Sanhedrin. The meeting will be chaired by the abbot.
Welcome to all of you. We are about to begin a short interchange between Diogenes Laertius and Job.
What good is this going to do? I am the worst of the worst.
Esteemed friends, Diogenes Laertius and Job, we have brought you here to discuss your views of life and death and events that happened to Zeno the Stoic and to you, Job. Our friends Nathan and Sophocles will ask questions, when pertinent, to help move the conversation along. Both of you may freely answer beyond the questions and respond to each other. As the dialogue proceeds, we hope that your direct interchange will predominate the exchange. Dear Oedipus, you too may enter into the discussion if you wish, and ask any questions or make any comments you desire.
Why am I being subjected to this? I want to go back to my room.
Let us begin.
Diogenes Laertius, will you begin by telling us about the life of Zeno the Stoic?
I will try.
First of all, who was this man, Zeno the Stoic?
One of the greatest of our philosophers, the founder of the school of Stoicism.
What is Stoicism?
A school of Greek philosophy.
Can you say more?
Yes, what does it call for?
Zeno defined the goal of life as living in agreement with nature.
And
If such an agreement exists, life is good.
what if it doesn't?
One may choose to exit his life.
Can you say that again? I don't think I heard you correctly.
If one's life does not agree with nature, he may take his own life.
Was this relevant to Zeno himself?
Yes.
How?
Zeno wrenched his toe by stumbling on his way home from the Stoa.
So how did he react?
Zeno held his breath until he died.
What? Can you say that again?
He killed himself.
Why?
Why what?
Why did he kill himself?
Because he had wrenched his toe.
So? I still don't understand. Why did Zeno's wrenching his toe lead him to killing himself?
Because he saw this as a sign from the gods that he should depart from life.
How? By holding his breath?
Yes, he held his breath until he died.
Oh, but Hashem breathes life into man. It is not for man to take the breath out of his own being. Besides, if he did this, would he not pass out and then start breathing again?
This is the story of how Zeno died.
Whatever the manner in which he took his own life, I do not understand from what you have told us why Zeno would do such a thing.
Because he thought that wrenching his toe was a sign from the gods that he should depart.
How do you know that is the reason he took his own life?
Because of what Zeno said after wrenching his toe.
What did he say?
I come, why dost thou call for me?
What did this mean?
Zeno was responding to what he thought was Zeus's call for him to depart this earth.
I simply don't understand this.
Why do you think
I can't believe that what I'm hearing correctly is what you're telling me.
Why do you think you misunderstand me?
How could a man kill himself over such a small irritation?
If I might intrude, Diogenes Laertius, do you think that act provided meaning in Zeno's life?
Yes, I do see it this way.
Did Zeno not know that his life had inherent meaning? Why did he have to go looking for it?
Can you tell us your story, Job?
What would you like me to tell?
What happened to you?
Where should I start?
At the beginning. You were having a very happy and blessed life.
Yes, I was.
You are a God-fearing man.
Of course.
Did you have children?
Yes, I was the father of 7 sons and 3 daughters.
That's a big family. Did you have any property or possessions?
I owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 she-asses, and a very great household.
I see that your life was very full and happy.
It was, but then my life fell apart.
What happened?
First, raiders came, stole my oxen and asses, and slew my servants.
You said first. What else happened?
My sheep and my servants were burnt up by a fire from heaven.
This is terrible. Was this all?
No. Then raiders took away my camels and slew my servants.
Was there more?
Yes. Another servant came
and told me that a great wind had come and smote the four corners of the house where my sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine.
Did they die?
Yes, they died. The walls fell upon them and they all died.
Was there more?
I was smitten by sore boils from the sole of my foot to my crown.
How terrible.
It gets worse. My wife, whom I loved, told me to curse God and die.
Did you?
No.
Was there more?
Yes. My friends turned on me, telling me I needed to accept my guilt.
Did they convince you?
No, I insisted I was innocent.
This is just like the Sanhedrin, trying to tell me to admit I was innocent of killing my father and marrying my mother.
No, Oedipus, it was the opposite.
What do you mean, the opposite?
Job's friends were trying to get him to accept his guilt. We at the Sanhedrin have been trying to get you to accept your innocence.
That is exactly correct.
I was not innocent. How could I be innocent? I murdered my father.
Let's go on. Did you not waver in your belief in God through all these travails and abandonment of your friends?
I certainly complained, and at times I wished I had never been born.
Didn't you think of departing this life?
I wrestled with wanting to die, but ultimately I reaffirmed my relationship with my Creator.
Who wouldn't complain? It is truly astounding to me that you continuously maintained your innocence,
I was innocent,
and you felt an injustice was done to you,
and injustice was done to me.
and yet you refused to break your relationship with your God.
Yes, my God is my God.
How is it that these events did not lead you to kill yourself, Job?
I don't understand what you're asking.
Did you not see what happened to you as a sign from the gods that you should depart this life?
My people don't think this way. Hashem breathes life into man, and only Hashem takes it away. We don't look for signs in the way that you mention. God speaks to us. We don't consult soothsayers.
How do you know what to do?
We live. We don't search for meaning or look for signs to depart this world. We hear God's voice. We believe Hashem created us in an act of loving kindness. Many bad things happened to me, but Hashem did not take the breath from me. And so I continued to live even though I struggled. May I ask you a question, esteemed sir?
Of course.
Can you tell me again the circumstances that led Zeno the Stoic to take his own life?
Zeno wrenched his toe, perhaps broke it.
Was this the exact reason for Zeno's desire to kill himself? This was not at all a catastrophe. It hardly even is worth a mention in the context of one's larger life.
But, as I've said before, Zeno saw it as a sign.
A sign for what?
A sign that he should depart this life.
Do you see it that way, Oedipus?
What way?
That it was a sign for Zeno to depart this life?
Zeno saw it as a sign.
But did you, Oedipus, did you see it as a sign that Zeno should depart this life?
I see that Zeno saw it that way.
I have a question for you, Oedipus.
Ask what you will.
Did you see what happened to you as a sign from the gods?
I don't see what you mean.
Why did you take out your eyes?
Because I did not want to see my dead parents in Acheron.
What is Acheron?
The afterlife.
And why did you not want to see your dead parents in Acheron?
I was ashamed.
I understand. But after you had taken your eyes out, why did you not kill yourself? You would not have seen your parents then?
I can't believe what I'm hearing. Why would Oedipus have killed himself? What a question to ask of him.
Because the gods were calling for him to depart this life.
Is that what you think, Oedipus?
I don't remember.
So why again? Did you take out your own eyes?
Because I did not want to see my dead parents in Acheron.
But, as Diogenes Laertius said, by taking your eyes, you could have then killed yourself and not seen your parents there. By not taking that final step of killing yourself, perhaps some part of you wanted to stay alive. That is what I am hearing.
Why do you say that?
Perhaps because some part of you didn't think you were guilty.
But I killed my father and married my mother.
But the Sanhedrin concluded that you did this unintentionally, as a byproduct of being misled by the Oracle of Delphi.
But I did kill my father and marry my mother. For those acts I am guilty.
Do you believe seeing what happened in this way gives your life meaning?
What are you saying? I don't see your point.
Well, Diogenes Laertius has told us that Zeno saw his wrenching of his toe as providing meaning for him, that it was a sign that the gods did not abandon him, but were calling for him.
I can see that.
But did you see what happened to you as a sign from the gods?
What? I don't see what you're talking about.
That you, believing you are guilty of patricide and incest, makes you feel special?
What?
Just like Zeno.
Is that what you thought, Oedipus?
But I did this by accident. I was trying to avoid doing these very acts.
Finally.
Let us have a meal and resume this meeting in the afternoon. Do not leave Oedipus alone.
Scene 1-11. The dialogue resumes after an afternoon meal. At this time, Job and Diogenes Laertius are silent.
I think what you felt, my dear Oedipus, was shame and not guilt.
Shame of what?
Shame of patricide and incest with your mother, even though it was not intentional.
Even though you were not guilty of intentionally committing these acts.
So, you are saying I was innocent of killing my father and having incest with my mother, even though I killed my father and had incest with my mother.
This is exactly what the Sanhedrin said, but we commented unfavorably on only one of your actions. Do you remember?
No.
Of taking out your eyes, because that is self-mutilation, which is forbidden in the Hebrew Scriptures.
So, what are you saying?
That you are innocent of intentionally killing your father and intentionally of having incest with your mother.
I don't see that I am innocent. Is that how the Sanhedrin viewed it?
Yes, that is what our Sanhedrin said. Did you not hear them? Can you listen to your acquittal now?
I am innocent?
Yes, Oedipus. That is what we have been saying to you. Do you hear us now?
I am innocent?
This is what we have been saying to you.
Innocent of what? I killed my father and wedded my mother.
But you did not know you were doing this.
But I did do it. Did I not, Sophocles?
Yes, you did, but you did not intend to do it, nor did you even know what you were doing.
If I am innocent, why has all this happened to me?
This is a very important question. Too much for the present meeting. Do not leave Oedipus alone. Let us end this meeting at the present time. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this discussion.
What have I done?
Can you and I meet again?
We must.
Scene 1-12. Nathan and Sophocles meet alone for a fifth time the next afternoon at the same cafe as before to continue their discussion on how to help Oedipus emotionally accept his acquittal.
What happened yesterday was very important.
I agree.
But there is something I am confused about.
What is that, my dear friend?
How and when did Oedipus become aware of the fact that he was adopted?
In his search for the murderer of Laius, the two shepherds of the adjoining pasture tell their story.
What did they say?
Laius' servant said that he was given the baby by Queen Jocasta to be left out to die in the fields.
And what does the other servant say?
That he took pity on the infant and brought him to the palace of King Polybus of Corinth.
When does Oedipus realize this, that he was that infant?
When he is able to put the two servants' stories together.
As I recall, his mother tries to stop him in his quest.
Yes, Jocasta does all she can to stop him.
How do we know this?
By the exchange between Oedipus and Jocasta.
Did you record it?
I did.
Can you summarize the events?
Yes, Oedipus wanted to go on in his search by bringing in the second servant.
What does he say?
It must not be that with such clues in my grasp, I should fail to bring my birth to light.
And Jocasta objects.
Yes, she objects passionately.
What does Jocasta say?
For the God's sake, if thou hast any care for thine own life, forbear this search. My anguish is enough.
But Oedipus doesn't stop.
Alas, no.
What happens next?
He discovers that he is the son of Laius and Jocasta.
Is that all?
No, he realizes that he was put out to die by them as an infant.
What does he say?
Oh, all brought to pass, all true. Thy light, may I now look my last on thee. I who have been found accursed at birth, accursed in wedlock, accursed in the shedding of blood.
So, this sheds light on what Oedipus must have felt.
What do you mean? Where are you going with this?
That finally, Oedipus realizes that his mother put him out to die on his father's instructions. At this point, when he realized that they both had tried to kill him as an infant, how could he not have hated them both, especially his father?
Go on.
At this point, did Oedipus not feel justified in killing his father on the road, who had in fact tried to kill him at his birth?
I hear your point. Perhaps at this point he did not feel guilt at all for killing his murderous father.
Exactly. He killed someone who had tried to kill him twice.
So his protestations of guilt may be covering up his truer feelings of revenge against his father, even though he did not know the entire story when he killed the older man on the road, or even at the time that the older man was his father Laius.
Exactly.
This leaves Oedipus's feelings toward sleeping with his mother.
He didn't kill her, though he may have tried if she had not already killed herself.
But she did become his wife and bore him 4 children.
Yes, she did. And I agree that his feelings toward her were obviously more complicated. Was it just that he slept with her that enraged him? Or his realization that she had colluded in an attempted murder of him as a child?
I hear what you are saying. Oedipus must have had some very justified anger in this regard, as well as shame.
Who wouldn't?
So you think he protests his feelings of guilt too much?
Yes. With regard to killing his father, I think he feels anger, hate, revenge, and even vindication and relief.
No guilt?
I don't think so. Perhaps some shame over sleeping with his father's wife.
And Oedipus's feelings with regard to his mother?
I think he was ambivalent.
What was the ambivalence?
That Jocasta seemed to have been a good wife and a mother to their children, but also that she sent him out to die as an infant.
We cannot forget that Oedipus slept with his mother. I think he did feel shame over this.
I think we can understand that Oedipus's protestation of guilt represents a defense against a deeper sense of shame over sleeping with his mother, and perhaps some shame over the sense of revenge and elation he must have felt over murdering the father who had tried to kill him twice.
Yes, Laius tried to kill him, first when Oedipus was a newborn infant, And secondly, when he tried to kill Oedipus on the road.
There can be no doubt that he did feel shame regarding the incest with his mother.
This is why Oedipus says he took out his eyes, so he would not see his parents in Acheron after his death. His mother because he had slept with her, and his father because he had slept with his wife.
But, as we analyze, he did not kill himself. Not even after he took out his eyes so that he would not see his parents in Acheron.
This means that he did not want to die.
But we must help him find a meaning for living, particularly after he committed an act, a grievous act of reversible self-mutilation.
We must not lose focus of our desire to help Oedipus live as normal a life as he can.
Whatever the genuineness of his feelings of guilt, he did take out his own eyes.
How can we help him accept this?
And want to live.
End of Act 1. Act 2. Can Oedipus accept his self-blinding? Scene 2-1. Nathan and Sophocles meet for a sixth time at the same cafe as before to continue their discussion on how to help Oedipus emotionally accept his acquittal.
We've answered one riddle, only to uncover another.
What do you mean?
We assumed that if we could help Oedipus to stop trying to overinterpret what happened to him, that he could accept his acquittal by the Sanhedrin.
This is exactly how Diogenes Laertius described the death of Zeno.
Yes.
That Zeno needed to interpret his wrenching his toe as a sign from the gods that he should depart this world.
And when asked, what do you mean, Oedipus responded that he understood Zeno's decision to kill himself.
But significantly, Oedipus did not say he agreed with Zeno regarding his own life.
No, he did not.
But he did take out his own eyes.
Yes, but he did not kill himself.
And Oedipus gave as a reason that he did not want to see his parents in Acheron after what he had done.
But if he really wanted to die, he could have killed himself after taking out his own eyes.
Which he did not do.
Because part of him really never felt guilt.
Yes, we have agreed that he did feel shame.
A court cannot acquit a person of shame.
That is right. A court can acquit a person of guilt, but it cannot acquit a person of shame.
I think this is why Oedipus said he took out his eyes.
So he would not have to see his parents in Acheron.
Yes. His protestation of guilt may have unconsciously served to hide his underlying shame.
But how much shame could he really have felt? After all, he didn't really know that Laius and Jocasta were his natural parents, so how much shame could he have really felt?
You make a good point, Sophocles. And even when Oedipus realized what he had done, I think he felt confusion and anger more than anything else.
So then why did he take out his eyes? We have analyzed the situation such that we did not think that Oedipus felt guilt. Are we now saying that he did not feel shame either?
Could be.
Then why did he take out his eyes after he discovered the truth?
Perhaps because of frustration and rage, that he had been deceived, that nothing was as it appeared to him, and perhaps he did not trust his eyes.
That is a very provocative statement.
Yes, and perhaps we can use it as part of a larger intervention.
Toward what aim?
To enable Oedipus to accept his life as it is.
How would we do this?
I have some ideas. Let us meet again tomorrow.
Scene 2-2. Nathan and Sophocles meet for a seventh time at the same cafe as before to continue their discussion of how to help Oedipus to find a positive reason to live.
You said that you had some ideas on how to help Oedipus accept his life as it is.
I did say that.
What were you thinking?
I think there are two ways Oedipus can be helped to accept his life as it is.
2 ways. What are they?
First, to help him find a meaning to live,
And the second?
to somehow help him accept the loss of his sight.
Let us start with the first. What do you think would provide Oedipus some meaning in his life?
Caring for someone.
But here is the problem. Oedipus has no one. He has become estranged from his children. He does not even know where they are.
Do you know the whereabouts of his children?
Yes, sadly I do.
Where are they?
His two sons have killed each other at the seventh gate of Thebes, and his daughter Antigone has hung herself.
Does Oedipus know all of this?
I think the poor man has repressed it.
So, he has no one.
He does have someone.
Who?
His second daughter is Mene.
Is she still alive?
Yes, I think so.
Where is she?
She was with her father when he was exiled to Colonus.
What was she like?
Unlike Antigone, Ismene was passive. Ismene was emotional rather than passionate, more likely to plead for mercy than demand justice.
But is she not dead?
She vanished after the death of Antigone back in Thebes, but I have heard Ismene is alive and alone.
So, she is alive.
I think so.
So she needs Oedipus, and Oedipus needs her.
This may provide a meaning for Oedipus to live, to be a father to her, and she a daughter to him.
Yes. You must proceed to try to reunite Oedipus and Ismene. Do you think we could try to find her and bring her to Oedipus?
I can try. I know people in Colonus where she was last seen.
I think this is very important. Let us meet again tomorrow to continue our discussion.
How to accept the loss of his eyes?
Yes.
Scene 2-3. Nathan and Sophocles meet for an 8th time at the same cafe as before to continue their discussion of how to help Oedipus deal with the loss of his eyes.
Do you have any story in your tradition to help Oedipus deal with the loss of his eyes?
Yes, I think so.
What is this story?
Story of Samson.
Can you tell me the story?
Yes. Samson was a man of superhuman strength who could perform extraordinary feats.
He appears to be like our Heracles,
Who's Heracles?
our strong man.
According to the biblical account, Samson was given immense strength. It allowed him to perform glorious feats, such as killing a lion, slaying an entire army with only the jawbone of an ass, and destroying a temple of the Philistines with his bare hands.
He is like Heracles.
However, there was one proviso.
What was that?
If Samson's long hair was cut, he would lose his strength.
His story sounds like our Achilles,
What do you mean?
that he was invulnerable except for his heel.
I don't know that story.
It is not important. So Samson's hair was his vulnerability.
Actually, the Jewish view runs deeper. It was his eyes that were his vulnerability.
What do you mean?
He lusted after Philistine women and is described by the rabbis as following his eyes.
Following his eyes. What did they mean?
His eyes led him astray to lust after Philistine women.
What happens?
He's betrayed by them and loses his eyesight.
So he is done in by his lust for them.
Yes. But his blindness ends up leading to his greatest triumph against the Philistines.
This is quite a story. Do you think this could help Oedipus accept his blindness?
I think it is worth a try.
What's the best way to present this story to Oedipus?
Let's do what we did before.
You mean stage another short dramatic play?
Yes, I propose we present Oedipus with a short dialogue regarding the life and death of Samson, whom we discussed previously. Is there any Greek figure who talks about the loss of sight?
Yes, our sightless prophet, Tiresias, who actually participated in the trial of Oedipus by the Sanhedrin. Who can talk about the life of Samson?
I think our great judge and prophetess Deborah can.
I can bring Tiresias. It will take several weeks.
And I can bring Deborah.
Scene 2-4. 1 month later, a second dialogue is staged for Oedipus between Tiresias and the prophetess Deborah, discussing the dead Samson, prodded by Nathan and Sophocles in a small theater-shaped room adjacent to the main court of the Sanhedrin. The meeting will be chaired by the Abbot Inn.
Welcome to all of you. We are now beginning a short interchange between Tiresias and Deborah.
We have done this before. What good is it going to do?
Esteemed friends, Deborah and Tiresias, we have brought you here to discuss your views of seeing and hearing in events that happened to Samson and to you, Tiresias. Our friends Nathan and Sophocles will ask questions, when pertinent, to help move the conversation along. Both of you may freely answer beyond the questions and respond to each other. As your dialogue proceeds, we hope the two of you can direct their conversation. Dear Oedipus, you two may enter into the discussion if you like, and ask any questions or make any comments.
Why are we doing this?
Esteemed prophetess Deborah, can you tell us the story of Samson?
What would you like to know?
What can you tell us about Samson's life? Who was he?
As a learned leader of the Sanhedrin, I am certain you know his story out of me.
Please tell us all the story as if I did not.
Samson was one of the last of the major judges of our people.
How does his life begin?
Manoah and his wife are childless. One day an angel of God appears to Manoah's wife, promising that she will bear a son, but with a proviso. She cannot contaminate her body with alcohol, because her child Samson will be a Nazirite, dedicated to God from birth.
Please continue.
Samson was given immense strength. It allowed him to perform glorious feats,
Such as?
such as quickly killing a lion, slaying an entire army with only the jawbone of an ass, and destroying a temple of the Philistines with his bare hands.
Please continue.
She learns that her son will save the Israelites from the Philistines.
This is quite a prophecy.
Yes, it is.
How does he live up to it?
He lives up to it and doesn't.
What do you mean?
There is a caveat.
What is it?
If Samson's long hair is cut, he loses his strength.
Is he foolish enough to let his hair be cut?
He is undone by his eyes.
I don't see what you mean.
He is undone through following his eyes.
Undone? Are you simply taunting me? How I wish I had my eyes.
I don't think you are hearing me.
Be patient, Oedipus. Please continue, Deborah.
Samson first asks his father to bring him a Philistine woman he has lusted after to be his wife.
Does his father object?
Yes, both his parents do. They want him to find a wife among the Israelites.
What happens?
Yes, what happens?
A very strange story. On his way to claim this non-Israelite bride, Samson discovers his superhuman strength. A young lion roars at him. The Spirit of the Lord rushes on him, and he tears the lion apart.
And then?
Samson uses this strength to kill 30 Philistine men in a fit of rage. It seems he had difficulty controlling his temper. He was very impulsive and had superhuman strength.
What happened next?
The Philistines raid a town in Judah in order to lure and capture Samson. To save themselves, the Judeans tie up Samson to deliver him to the enemy.
So his people betray Samson.
Go on, Deborah.
Samson found a fresh jawbone of a donkey, reached down and took it, and with it he killed 1,000 men of the Philistines.
He sounds like Heracles.
I don't know this Heracles, but Samson had superhuman strength.
Please continue, Deborah.
Samson falls in love with the second Philistine woman, the notorious Delilah, who has been tasked by her people to find the secret of Samson's strength.
Does she succeed?
3 times she begs to know the secret of his strength, and 3 times he lies to her. Finally, after Delilah nags persistently, he confesses, "A razor has never come to my head, for I have been a Nazirite to God from my mother's womb. If my head were shaved, then my strength would leave me."
What did Delilah do?
Delilah lulls Samson to sleep and shaves off his hair. He immediately weakens, and God's power leaves him. Delilah hands Samson over to the Philistines, who gouge out his eyes and force him to grind at a mill in prison.
So he is done in by his lust for Delilah?
He is done in by his eyes.
Yes, but his blindness ends up leading to his greatest victory against the Philistines.
How could this be? What happened?
The Philistines think Samson's blindness has left him helpless and harmless.
Are they right?
No, they have not taken into account that his hair has grown back.
So what do?
The Philistines bring Samson down to Gaza and bind him to 2 pillars in their temple at Dagon as a display for the amusement of the Philistine worshippers.
What does Samson do?
Samson prays to God, asking that he strengthen him so that he may be avenged of the Philistines for his 2 eyes. God responds by sending Samson a final burst of strength, and Samson pushes against the pillars and brings the entire temple down, killing himself and all those in the temple with him. The text concludes, "So the dead that he slew at his death were more than they that he slew in his life."
So his blindness actually leads to his greatest triumph.
Yes, in a strange way. The Philistines believe that the loss of his sight has made him impotent, but they are wrong.
What do you mean?
That Samson is now free from the distractions and pitfalls to which his eyes have led him, and can concentrate on his life mission to fight for the Israelites.
Are you saying that Samson was actually freed by the loss of his eyesight?
Yes, in a way. It says in our holy book the following: "And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them throughout their generations fringes in the corners of their garments, and that they put with the fringe of each corner a thread of blue.
So,
And it shall be unto you for a fringe, that ye may look upon it, and remember all the commandments of the Lord, and do them, and that ye go not about after your own heart and your own eyes, after which you used to go astray."
are you saying losing your eyesight is a good thing?
In a way, yes. The verse concludes as follows: "That ye may remember and do all my commandments, and be holy unto your God. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, to be your God. I am the Lord your God."
What are you saying?
That sometimes losing one's sight may give one a deeper insight. That moral vision is more important than physical sight. Indeed, our Talmud debates the true character of Samson. One Mishnah paints him in a negative light, saying that Samson's eyes were gouged out as a punishment for having followed the desires of his eyes.
There is nothing in my Greek tradition that would believe this, that blindness is preferable to sight.
Is that true, Tiresias?
No, it is not true.
Please go on, dear sir.
Do you recall the exchange I had with Oedipus?
Please, remind me.
The city of Thebes was suffering a great pestilence
Why?
because it was polluted by the murderer of King Laius being in the boundaries of the city.
Go on.
Oedipus here summoned me to come to him to help shed light on the identity of the murderer of King Laius.
Did you come?
I did, but most reluctantly.
Why were you reluctant to come? Did you not want the murderer to be identified?
I felt trapped in a very uncomfortable position
Why?
because I knew Oedipus himself was the man he was looking for. That he had murdered King Laius, though he did not know this. That Oedipus himself was the man he was hunting.
I see you were caught in a terrible position.
I tried to avoid answering his questions.
What did Oedipus do?
Yes, what did I do?
You pressed me, and when I was evasive, you said you would not tolerate my insolence.
What happened next?
I told Oedipus that he himself was the man he was looking for.
How did Oedipus react?
He became furious.
What did he say?
Yes, what did I say?
You told me that truth was not in me for my eyes, my mind, my eyes were blind.
How did you respond?
I told Oedipus that he was a wretched fool to use harsh words which would soon describe his own state.
What did Oedipus say?
He went on telling me that I was blind, so I could never injure him or any man.
How did you respond?
Yes. How did you answer him? Did you not become angry?
Yes. I told Oedipus that since he had chosen to insult my blindness, that though he had his eyesight, he did not see how miserable he was or his living situation.
What did Oedipus do?
He banished me.
What did Oedipus say? Do you remember?
Yes, I do. Word for word. He told me, hence, ruin take thee. Hence, this instant, back, away, avaunt thee from these doors.
What do we make of all this?
That in a way, Oedipus was done in by his eyes as much as Samson.
Say more.
That sometimes we can see things better with an inner eye and our ears.
This is very interesting. There's no question that in our tradition we say, Hear, O Israel, Shema Yisrael, and not See, O Israel.
Is there not a story about Hagar who also talks about not being trapped by one's eyes?
Yes, Hagar is described as calling the name of the Lord that spoke unto her, Thou art a God of seeing.
Doesn't Hagar say more?
Yes, she says, Have I ever here seen him that seeth me?
What do you make of this?
That seeing is not the way to best apprehend God.
And there is yet another event described in our Tanakh I want to speak about.
What is that, Deborah?
The prophet Samuel being sent by God to Jesse the Bethlehemite to choose a successor to King Saul from among Jesse's sons.
Go on, can you tell us what happened?
Samuel first beheld Eliab, Jesse's eldest son, who looked very much the part of a king.
And?
But God rejects him.
Why?
Because of what the Lord says to Samuel.
What does he say?
Look not on his countenance or on the height of his stature, because I have rejected him. For it is not as man seeth, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart.
I know the story well. Does God reject all of Jesse's sons?
No, he rejects all of Jesse's 7 oldest sons. But upon Samuel's insistence, Jesse sends his youngest son David, who has been the keeper of the sheep.
And this is the son that God wants Samuel to anoint as successor to King Saul.
Yes.
So God sees with an inner eye.
Yes, remember we say, Hear, O Israel, Shema Yisrael, and not See, O Israel.
Of course.
And Moses is not allowed to see God.
Yes. Exodus 3, 1-5 describes Moses as tending the flock of Jethro his father-in-law, near Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. And Moses said, I will turn aside now and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt.
And the passage concludes thusly: Draw not nigh hither, put off thy shoes from thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground. Then he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God.
What does all of this have to do with me?
That people can be led astray by their eyes.
But you're speaking as a Hebrew, a Jew. I am a Greek, and you have your eyes.
But I am a Greek too, Oedipus, like you. Although you had your sight, you could not see the truth.
What are the two of you saying? That it is better to be blinded than sighted?
No, of course not. But that perhaps we are betrayed by the superficialities that vision brings us. That we are in a strange way limited by our eyes and discouraged from understanding the world more deeply.
I agree. Sometimes we are actually blinded by our eyes.
Even betrayed by them.
There is a great deal to absorb here. I suggest we close this meeting. Thank you all very much for joining us, esteemed Deborah and Tiresias, dear Nathan and Sophocles. Can the two of you meet with our friend Oedipus?
Of course.
Can we meet privately first at our usual cafe?
Of course.
Scene 2-5. Nathan and Sophocles meet for a 9th time 2 days later at the same cafe that they had met before to continue their discussion of how to help Oedipus emotionally accept his acquittal.
Do you think, my dear man, that Oedipus was helped by this dialogue we created between Deborah and Tiresias?
In many ways, they express similar views of the limitations of sight and seeing.
But Tiresias was cutting and sarcastic and spoke in riddles, while Deborah showed compassion.
Perhaps we need to let this percolate in Oedipus's thinking for a while.
Yes, I think so.
We had talked about locating Oedipus's one surviving daughter, Ismene.
Is she still alive? Were you able to find her?
Yes and yes.
Does she want to see her father?
A third yes.
How should we proceed?
What do you mean?
Should we talk to Oedipus first to see if he wants to see Ismene? Or should we just bring her to him?
Which do you think is the better way?
I think we should bring up the topic very delicately to Oedipus as we talk to him about his reaction to the dialogue he just participated in with Deborah and Tiresias.
All right. Let us meet with Oedipus next week.
Scene 2-6. Nathan and Sophocles come to Oedipus's room the following week. Oedipus is lying in his bed.
Good afternoon, Oedipus.
I am very upset and angry.
Why?
I hadn't realized, I had forgotten just how vicious Tiresias had been to me.
Say more, please.
I was sincerely trying to help my subjects, the people of Thebes.
Yes, you were.
I was just trying to find out what the source of the pestilence was.
Yes, you were.
That it was because the murderer of Laius resided in the boundaries of the city.
Exactly.
I had no idea that I was the murderer of my father, let alone the lover of my mother.
Of course not. That's what we've been trying to tell you.
Yes, you were in fact trying to avoid killing your father and bedding your mother.
That is why you fled from Corinth, after you heard the prophecy of the oracle.
Tiresias knew the truth.
Yes, he did.
But he did not tell it to you in a way that you could understand.
No, he did not. In fact, he taunted me.
Yes, answering your questions with riddles.
He was taunting me rather than helping me.
Yes, that is true. He made things much worse for you.
But what I did was so terrible that it didn't make any difference how he told me.
That is not true.
Why do you say that?
I want to tell you about my encounter with David.
Who is David?
He was the king of Israel.
Why is it relevant?
Let me tell you the story.
All right.
David saw the beautiful Bathsheba bathing naked in a pool.
And?
David summoned her to him and slept with her.
Yes.
She became pregnant.
Did he marry her?
She was already married to Uriah, one of David's elite corps of soldiers.
Oh, this is very bad.
It gets worse.
What does David do?
David summons Uriah home from the battlefield so that Uriah will sleep with his wife.
So that Uriah would think the child would be his.
Yes, but Uriah refuses to go home to sleep with his wife because he feels it would be disloyal to his men fighting in the battlefield.
So David's attempts to conceal his actions are frustrated.
Yes.
So what does David do?
He sends Uriah back to the battlefield and arranges for him to be killed in battle.
This is terrible.
Yes, it is. Far worse than anything you've done.
What did you do, Nathan?
God sent me to him to make David aware of the immorality of his actions.
Did you tell him directly how wrong his actions were?
No, I was afraid to. Instead, I told him a parable.
What kind of a parable? What did you tell him?
I told David the story of two men living in the same town. One was rich and the other poor. The rich man had sheep and cattle, and the poor man had nothing except one little ewe he had nurtured from infancy.
Please continue.
A wayfarer came to the rich man, who used his power to take the poor man's ewe and slaughter it for a meal, rather than slaughter any of his many sheep and cattle.
This is horrible. How did David react?
David became very angry toward the man.
What did he say?
He said to me, "As the Lord liveth, that man who has done this deserves to die, and he shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing and because he has no pity."
How did you respond?
I said to David, "You are the man."
Did David become angry with you?
On the contrary, he admitted his sin and asked for forgiveness from the Lord.
And how did your Lord respond?
I told him, David, that the Lord had remitted his offense and he would not die, but that the newly born son, born to David and Bathsheba, would die.
Does their son die?
Yes. But after David grieves and atones, Bathsheba gives birth to another son, Solomon, who will succeed David as king of Israel.
So David is forgiven.
Yes.
But look, my dear Oedipus, at how Tiresias acted toward you.
But I did something far worse.
Did you? What exactly did you do again that was far worse?
I killed my father and had an incestuous relationship with my mother.
But you did not know this.
Of course not.
You absolutely did not know this. Have we not established that you were trying to avoid doing so?
And you did not know you had done these deeds, did you?
I already said I have not.
But look at how Tiresias taunted you with your non-intentional actions.
Yes. Did you hear what Sophocles is saying to you?
Do you remember? Tiresias repeated it in conversation with you.
I feel overwhelmed. I can see things right now.
So now is the time to begin to hear, to listen.
I agree with Nathan.
Rather than tell you a parable to illuminate the truth to you in a way that you will accept, Tiresias taunted you with maddening riddles.
He told you that you were the man that you were searching for.
Did you have any idea of what that meant?
No, I didn't.
Did you know that it referred to you having killed your father and married your mother?
No, of course not. I had run away from Corinth to avoid doing these deeds.
How might you, Nathan, have approached this situation? Have you thought of this?
I have. I think I would have told Oedipus a parable.
What kind of parable?
A parable similar to what I told David.
Can you tell it to us?
There was a man who was told he was going to kill the lamb he had raised from its youth and eat it.
Go on.
To avoid doing this, he gave the lamb to a shepherd to guard it from being slaughtered.
And?
But the shepherd suffered financial failure and had to sell the lamb to a butcher.
I hear where this is going.
And the first man went to the butcher and bought the lamb and slaughtered it and ate it.
Without realizing it, that it was his lamb.
Yes, without realizing it was his lamb. He had tried to protect his lamb.
Isn't this what happened to you?
Yes.
And if Tiresias had told you the story and concluded with informing you that you were the man, might you not have understood and accepted it?
Perhaps.
And not taken your eyes out?
Perhaps not, but I did, and I am alone.
No, you are not alone.
Yes, I am.
No, I have found your daughter, Ismene.
Ismene, my beloved daughter, is she not dead?
No, she is alive, Oedipus.
Ismene is alive?
Yes, and she is coming to see you.
Why would she want to see me? What good am I to her, a blind old man?
I have found her, and she wants to meet you. Will you see her?
How can I see her? I am blind.
Will you listen to what she has to say?
My dearest Ismene is alive.
Scene 2-7. Ismene arrives at the inn where Nathan and Sophocles are staying. They come out to greet her.
Dear, dear Ismene, thank you so much for coming.
Where is my father? How is he? Take me to him.
We will, but first we want to prepare you. He is a very broken man.
Oh, I don't care. Take me to him.
He seems to have no reason to live. He has not truly gotten over his guilt over what happened, even though our Sanhedrin acquitted him.
Well, that is not what he said in Colonus.
What did he say in Colonus?
That he was innocent.
Do you remember his exact words?
Oh, yes. I wrote them down.
What were they?
Yes, Ismene, what were your father's exact words in Colonus?
And yet, in nature, how was I evil? I who was but requiting a wrong, so that I had been acting with knowledge, even when I could not be accounted wicked. But as it was, all unknowing went I, whither I went, while they who wronged me knowingly sought my ruin.
So, why has your father refused to accept his acquittal from the Sanhedrin?
What is the Sanhedrin?
Our high court in Jerusalem.
Oh, but it's not a Greek court.
No, it is not, but it is strange that Oedipus has forgotten what you are telling us he said when he first entered Colonus.
I don't care. I want to see my father.
We will take you to him tomorrow. But please, be very careful with him. He is a very broken man.
Scene 2-8. The next day, Nathan and Sophocles bring Ismene into Oedipus's room. They leave her alone with her father. Oedipus is standing by the window.
Father, I've missed you. I thought you were dead.
Is this you, my daughter? I fear you were
Oh,
dead.
no, I'm very much alive, Father.
What happened to your brothers and your sister?
My brothers are dead, dear Father.
How? When?
Oh, do you remember being in Colonus?
Sophocles told me I was in Colonus.
Antigone brought you there when you were banished from Thebes. Do you remember this?
No.
Do you remember my brother, Polynicus, coming to you in Colonus and asking for your forgiveness?
No.
Do you remember what happened to Polynicus and your other son, Eteocles?
They abandoned me, unlike you and your sister.
The younger brother, Eteocles, grabbed the throne from his older brother, Polynicus, and exiled him. Polynicus came to Thebes to get your blessing and to lead an army to reclaim his throne. Do you remember any of this?
No. But my sons were both always selfish. I remember neither of them caring for me after I took my house. I cursed them to die by each other's hand.
And so they did.
How?
Polynicus attacked Eteocles to try and regain the throne.
And what happened?
They killed each other at the seventh gate of Thebes, fulfilling your curse.
I wish I could feel sorrow, but I cannot. They abandoned me.
Yes, but they were my brothers.
But what of your sister Antigone?
But she attempted to bury the dead Polynicus.
Of course. Was this an issue? We Greeks never leave the dead unburied.
Yes, but Creon, who had now become the king after the death of both of your sons, refused to allow Polynicus to be buried as he was a rebel.
What did Creon do?
He ordered Antigone to be buried alive.
What a vicious, evil man. He does not bury the dead, but does the living.
Yes.
What happened to my dear beloved daughter?
Oh, Father, Antigone hung herself in the tomb in which Creon imprisoned her.
Like her mother Jocasta.
Creon wanted to ask you back to Thebes, to kill you and bury you in the boundaries of the city.
Why?
Because an oracle had predicted that your burial place would bring good fortune to the city in which it was located.
I do remember this. And
I hope you escaped, and we became separated.
oh, my beloved daughter, I thought you were dead.
I am not, and I am here for you now, Father.
What good can I be to you, my daughter? I am old and blind.
Oh, Father, you are everything to me, and I will never leave you again.
But I am old and blind, my daughter. What good can I be to you?
You don't know how hard I've looked for you. I didn't know what happened to you, if you were still alive, until Sophocles found me.
Leave me, daughter.
Oh, do you not love me, Father?
What good I am to you, my daughter? My life is ruined. I am the most guilty of all men.
Why? What is the horrible thing you've done?
My dearest daughter, I killed my father, your grandfather, and impregnated your mother, who was also my own.
But you didn't know this, and you were trying to avoid that outcome. And in your lack of knowledge, you brought about what you were trying to avoid.
But I did these acts, and I am guilty.
Oh, Father, but this is not what you said when you first came to Colonus after being banished from Thebes. I wrote down your words.
What were my words? What did I say?
And yet, in nature, how was I evil? I who was but requiting a wrong, so that had I been acting with knowledge, even then I could not be accounted wicked. But as it was, all unknowing went I, whither I went, while they who wronged me knowingly sought my ruin.
Did I say this?
Yes, Father, you did.
I said that?
Yes, Father, you're guilty of nothing. I am the product of your unborn union between you and my mother. I know you did not know who she was. You have been a wonderful father.
No, my daughter. I did not know your mother was my own. I was trying to avoid fulfilling a terrible prophecy that I would have incest with my mother.
I know this, but you have been a wonderful father to me. and I love you more than I can put into words.
But I am old and blind. And what do I have to give you?
Father, what do you mean? You have everything to give. I have looked so long and hard for you. I love you, Father, with all of my heart.
Leave me, my daughter, and live your life.
Father, you are my life. I will never leave you again.
What do I have to give you, my daughter?
You have yourself to give me.
But I am blind. I cannot see. What good am I?
There is seeing, and there is seeing.
Scene 2-9. Nathan and Sophocles meet alone for a second time with Ismene 2 days later at the same cafe where they had met before.
How was it for you to see your father?
It was like a hole in me that was being filled up.
Is that all you felt?
I also felt very sad
What made you feel sad?
because of the situation.
Why? Because your father is blinded?
No, more his attitude.
What do you mean exactly? I don't exactly understand what you're saying.
My father seems to feel like there's no meaning to his life.
Is that all?
That he's useless, that he can be of no help to me.
Do you feel this is true?
Of course not. I need him more now than ever.
How do you think you can let him know that?
I tried to tell him, but he feels that he is useless without his eyes.
Has he always felt this way since he took out his eyes?
Perhaps not. I remember what my father said when he first entered Colonus.
What did he say?
Well, he said two things.
What was the first thing he said?
He said, "In all that I speak, there shall be sight."
That's very important. Did he say more?
Yes.
What more did he say?
"Behold the man whom ye seek, for in sound is my sight," as the saying hath it.
These lines seem to indicate that Oedipus accepted his blindness.
At least he seemed to believe that one sense can compensate for the loss of another.
Is there not an example in your Greek civilization that can illustrate this more clearly?
Was not our great epic poet Homer himself thought to be blind?
Yes.
Herein may be a key to unlock the soul of Oedipus.
Scene 2-10. Nathan and Sophocles bring Ismene again to Oedipus. This time they sit quietly in a corner of the room.
Father, I am here again.
You should not have come.
Oh, but I wanted to, Father.
I had nothing to give you, my daughter. Can't you see that?
Don't you hear me, Father? I love you and I want to be with you. You do have something to give me.
What can I give you?
Your love and your wisdom, Father.
But I can't see.
Well, you can put our great poet Homer.
Why do you give me Homer as an example?
Because he wrote epic poems, even though he was blind.
I am not Homer.
You are more like him than you realize, Oedipus. He saw deeply, even though he was blind.
Do you remember what you said when you first came into Colonus, Father?
No, I don't even remember coming into Colonus.
Do you remember nothing of what you said?
What did I say?
You said, "In all that I speak, there shall be sight."
This sounds like Homer to me. Look how he was able to see and describe the war in Troy without his sight.
Yes, Homer seemed to be able to see Troy clearly.
And you said more, Father.
What more did I say, daughter?
Father, you said, "Behold the man whom ye seek, for in sound is my sight," as the saying hath it.
What were you trying to say, my poor man?
I don't remember. I don't know.
Do you mean that sometimes hearing can substitute for seeing?
I don't see what you're getting at.
Can you hear me?
I am listening to your words.
But do you hear me?
But what do you want me to see?
That hearing can compensate for seeing and even be deeper.
You are not Greek. What tradition do you come from?
I am a Jew.
Is there anything in your tradition that speaks to what Oedipus said when he came to Colonus?
Yes, I can think of a saying in the book of Psalms in our Bible.
What is it?
It says in Psalm 119 the following: Thy word is a lamp to my feet and a light unto my path.
Did you hear that, Father? Yes.
I think we are finally ready to return to the Sanhedrin.
Finally.
Scene 2-11. A return to the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin is reconvened. Oedipus returns with Nathan, Sophocles, and his daughter Ismene.
I have received a request from both Nathan and Sophocles to reopen the proceedings of your trial. Oedipus, is this correct?
Yes, Adoni, we want to reopen the proceedings regarding Oedipus.
This is most unusual. Oedipus has already been acquitted of the charges Aeschylus brought against him. What is his complaint?
He did not accept his acquittal.
This is most unusual. Why would someone not accept a verdict of not guilty?
Because Oedipus insisted he was guilty.
But we reasoned he was entrapped by the oracle. Can you read from the proceedings of our verdict?
We find Oedipus not guilty of the murder of his father because he had acted in self-defense. We find Oedipus not guilty of incest because he did not know that the woman he married and impregnated was his mother. Therefore, we judge that Oedipus lacked mental state of specific intent, which is required for the offense of incest. Oedipus did not know who his natural father and mother were.
Can you read our reasoning behind this verdict?
First, the Pythia told Laius that his son Oedipus will kill him and marry his mother when he becomes a man.
Go on.
Second, Laius attempted to kill his son.
Yes.
Third, as a direct result of Laius' attempt to kill his son, Oedipus was rescued and adopted by the king Polybus of Corinth.
And?
Fourth, Oedipus grew up thinking Polybus was his father and Merope his mother.
Continue.
Fifth, Oedipus overheard a man questioning his identity.
What happened?
Sixth, confused, Oedipus went to the oracle to seek information about his identity.
And what did he learn?
Seventh, the oracle did not answer the question. Instead, she tells Oedipus that he is fated to kill his father and marry his mother.
Uh-huh.
Eighth, Oedipus became frightened and flees from Corinth to avoid hurting his supposed parents.
I can see that.
Ninth, Oedipus killed an older man in self-defense over a quarrel regarding right-of-way at a crossing on the road to Thebes. Oedipus did not know that man was his biological father. Indeed, he of course thinks King Polybus of Corinth is his biological father.
And?
10th, Oedipus solved the riddles of the Sphinx who had been terrorizing Thebes. But despite the fact that Oedipus was highly intelligent, he remained trapped by the paralysis of Greek fatalism.
Go on.
11th, in response to this, as a result, Oedipus was rewarded with the kingship of Thebes and was wed to Queen Jocasta, the widow of King Laius. There is not the slightest shred of evidence that Oedipus had any sense that she was his mother. Indeed, he thought that Dorian Merope, the wife of King Polybus, was his mother.
Did you not then find Oedipus guilty of any crime?
No. So you were saying that Oedipus did not accept his acquittal?
He did not, Adonai. He insisted he was guilty. He shouted, I'm guilty! I'm guilty! I'm guilty of patricide and incest. I'm a pollutant, the worst of the worst.
So what has changed? Why have you come back?
Oedipus may now be able to accept his acquittal.
Is this true, Oedipus?
Yes,
Can you tell me what has changed for you?
my daughter reminded me of what I said when I first entered Colonus after being banished from Thebes.
What had you said, my good man?
Did you write down what I said, your daughter?
I did, Father.
What were your father's exact words, my dear woman?
And yet in nature, how was I evil? I who but requiting a wrong, so that had I been acting with knowledge, even then I could not be accounted wicked. But as it was, all unknowing went I, whither I went, while they who wronged me knowingly sought my ruin.
Thank you, my dear, dear woman. You see, my noble man, you agreed all along with our verdict.
But then I took out my eyes needlessly.
No, we did not comment on that act. We could not offer a judgment.
Can you refresh my memory?
Oedipus taking out his eyes. The prohibition against self-injury occurs in Deuteronomy in our Torah. You are the children of the Lord your God. You shall not cut yourself, nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead.
Yes, I remember. It was a needless, self-destructive act.
I ruined my life.
My dear man, we bemoan the act. We do not condemn you. Your life is not ruined.
How can you say this? I can't see what you are saying.
But you can hear what I am saying.
What?
Sometimes we can be betrayed by our eyes.
What do you mean?
Do you remember the story of Samson we told you?
I'm not certain.
How he was betrayed by his eyes?
How again?
Samson, following his eyes, led to his betraying the source of his strength to the Philistines.
Do you remember what Tiresias said?
I'm not sure.
He said, sometimes we are blinded by our eyes.
Do you remember what I told you? What you said when you first entered Colonus?
What did I say?
First you said, in all that I speak, there shall be sight. And then later you said, behold the man whom ye seek, for in sound is my sight, as the saying hath it.
Listen, insight can be more important than sight, my dear Oedipus.
There is seeing, and then there is seeing.
There is sight, and then there is insight.
Do you think you can live with your blindness, my dear Oedipus, and finally accept your acquittal and forgive yourself?
Can you, Father? I love you very much, and I need you to be my father.
I will try.
End of play.